How has VGK fared historically in closeout games as they look to eliminate the Jets on Thursday night in Game 5 of the series?
Your Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi again, everyone. Tony Cardasco along with Chris Golick. We come to you from Las Vegas. You could find us on Twitter at Tony Dasco, at TDChrisG, and at Locked On VGK, Locked On Golden Knights. It was where you could find us on the YouTube channel. And please subscribe now. And thanks for making us your first listen, your team, the Vegas Golden Knights, every day. We are brought to you today by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off of your first purchase. Chris, as we mentioned on yesterday's show, it's really difficult for teams to close out opponents, particularly in the Stanley Cup and the playoffs. And for the VGK, they have not had the best record when trying to close out teams, last year especially. No, they didn't play. Of course, they didn't make the playoffs. But in any event, you did a lot of research, and what is VGK's record? I think I'm a little hot here on the mic. What is?
No,
VGK's?
You sound good. You sound
okay.
You sound lovely as always. Don't worry.
Okay,
you're not nearly as hot as you are in your head, Tony. So
what is
a little bit of research
here.
Looks like the VGK is 7-8 overall in closeout games. So basically a 500 record, and I don't know how that fares against like the rest of the NHL, but I got to think they're not too far behind the 8 ball or too far ahead because closeout games are so difficult. We just saw on Tuesday night, for example, Carolina Hurricanes. You would think everything pointed them closing out the Islanders being up 3-1. Islanders won in Carolina to extend that series. So, there's nothing suggesting the Winnipeg Jets should beat the Golden Knights in T-Mobile on Thursday, but it can definitely happen. Going back to season 1, this was really VGK's best season as far as closing out games goes. 3-0. They beat the Kings, they beat the Sharks, they beat the Jets. And the interesting thing, all of those closeout games happened on the road. Even more interesting that VGK was able to have that killer instinct. So they swept the Kings 4-0. The closeout game itself was a 1-0 victory shutout for Marc-Andre Fleury. Looking at season 2, this is again the Jets the Sharks.
The Sharks was season 2. Yeah.
Yep, Sharks was season 2. Another shutout too, 3-0. 3-0 against the Sharks to close that series out in San Jose. And then that big bag whiteout we've been talking about, right? The Golden Knights win 2-1 against the Jets. I believe that was a Sunday matinee game, and Revo, of all people, I believe, got the game-winning goal on a tip, if I'm not mistaken. And that was where that line 4 of Nosek and Reeves definitely, and Will Carey had some real nice things going for a while there. And Carpenter was even chipping in on that line, all sorts of things.
Okay. And then after that,
so the next season, this is when things get weird. This is season 2. This is when the not a major stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
And Golden Knights are up 3-1. They lose
like they are now.
Yeah, just like they are now, exactly. And they lose 3 straight closeout games. Now, as much garbage as I talk about the Sharks and things like that, the Sharks did have a really good team that season. They had a much better team that season than what the Jets have right now, when you factor health and all the things that is going against the Jets right now. But it just felt weird that season. And the one game that really stands out to me, so you got to assume game 5, home ice, Vegas is up 3-1, home ice for the Sharks, that is. You got to assume the Sharks are going to give a great effort. And they did. They won that game pretty handily. I feel like VGK, I don't have the score in front of me, but I feel like VGK wasn't too far in that game, so to speak. So going to game 6, this is where VGK had to close things out. It was a home game, matinee game. I remember me and my son were at that game, actually. And we left. We went to the car during the first overtime because he was younger and just, 4 periods of hockey is too much.
He picked the Sharks in that game, I'm sure.
It was the Sharks. Yep, it was the Sharks.
No, he picked them. He picked the Sharks.
He probably did pick the Sharks that game, and he was right, that little bugger. But the Golden Knights get a friggin' power play and they give up a shorthanded goal. It was a bad goal that Marc-Andre Fleury gave up too. I remember we were in the parking garage watching on the big screen because I saw VGK had a power play. Like, let's watch and see what happens. And yeah, that sucked. And then obviously Game 7 is what it is.
Right. And then, of course, that the next year was the bubble year.
Yeah, next year's the bubble year. So they got the Blackhawks in the first round. The 12-seeded Blackhawks knocked off the 5th-seeded Edmonton Oilers, I believe, if memory serves me right. In that 3-game, or the first to 3, it was either first to 5 or it was either a best out of 5 or a best out of 3 to technically advance to the Stanley Cup playoffs. It was weird the way they did that because of the bubble and COVID and stoppage and everything. VGK got off to a 3-0 lead against the Blackhawks, and then it was a gentleman's sweep. Blackhawks get 1 game in the bubble, Golden Knights come back and get Game 5. And then this is where the trouble starts for the Golden Knights. This is where they had that series against Vancouver. Same deal, up 3-1. And all of a sudden, they can't score goals. Thatcher Demko had his moment in the sun. He hasn't done anything since, but he had his moment in the sun against the Golden Knights.
He's always in the sun in San Diego.
Fair enough. That's pretty good, actually. So Abbotsford, but either way, minor league team. Golden Knights, they couldn't score playoff goals. They couldn't score power play goals. They couldn't score even strength goals. And the only goal, I believe it was a 1-0 shutout victory in Game 7, where Theodore just gets a little seeing eye wrist shot that went through a bunch of traffic and they got the goal. But that was the beginning of the end for the Pete DeBoer era, right? That was when we were had some concerns about what was going to happen long term. And this is actually where Pete DeBoer did make a genius move. So this is the whole Marc-Andre Fleury, Robin Lehner, bloody sword, all that drama happening right now. And Game 6 and 7 were back to back, because if you recall, that was when there was a protest by the players. They basically refused to play for a couple nights, so they had to readjust the schedule. So basically, Games 6 and 7 were back to back, and DeBoer rolled with Robin Lehner in 6 and 7 both. And Lehner came back and got the shutout in Game 7. Amazing victory, and then they go on to the Dallas Stars, and unfortunately, they don't end up having any closeout games because they were on the other side of the closeout game, losing in overtime and lost the series 4-1.
And then the next year was the Montreal year?
Yeah, so next year was when Montreal eventually eliminated us. VGK was up 3-2 against Minnesota, couldn't close it out on the road, but a great Game 7. Matthias Janmark, the hero, who winds up getting a hat trick in Game 7 after being a late trade deadline type acquisition. And the craziest thing about that game, I still remember, I zoomed in as the clock was winding down. You got Foley, McCrimmon, and McPhee all in the box together. And I got a video. I said, listen, this is McCrimmon just doing his victory lap about Matthias Janmark. And I had the video all the way from the back of 217 and zoomed in as far as I could. And that was a fun moment. Then Colorado after that. What a series that was. Vegas falls down 0-2. Wins 4 straight, including the closeout Game 6 if I recall, that game against the Avs wasn't really ever in the balance. Like, VGK just kind of rolled beginning to end in that game.
Yeah. And then after that,
Montreal kicked their butt.
Yeah. And we haven't heard from Montreal since. Okay.
For what? Yeah, right.
And then
Montreal wins the Campbell Bowl. That's the oddest thing for me. But back to the original topic here, 7 and 8 in closeout games since their inception. And, maybe we'll give a little victory lap for the Golden Knights for being involved in 15 closeout games in technically 4 seasons, 5 seasons, if you count last year. There's a lot of franchises that would absolutely kill to be in the spot that the Golden Knights are in right now, as far as their competitive level and the fact that they have been a Stanley Cup contender, at least for 5 of their 6 seasons.
Curious to see if they do come out rather flat here on Thursday night, or if they have some pep in their step. And once again, Cassidy keeps alluding to the fact that this team has not played a complete 60-minute game. But then I just keep thinking, has anyone in the NHL played a complete 60-minute game?
How do you measure a
complete 60-minute game? That's so hard to do, right? I know. In the playoffs, I had something else for you in this segment. Again, goaltenders that VGK, should they advance, do not want to face. Jake Ottinger, I put right now at the top of the list. He's really starting to heat up. I think he had a shutout last night And he's been really good. A lot of folks have been busy touting Colorado, but I don't trust Georgiev. The Kings have
They got to get
Korpisalo.
out of that round. They have to get out of that round. They're without Makar for a game. Let's see if they even survive now.
Right, exactly. That's why I think the path for VGK is a lot easier, but suddenly Ottinger, like he's done in the past, starts to play better as the playoffs start to wear on. And he's 31-15. His overall goals against average, almost said earned run average, is 2.53. And so the other goalies,
He's
Kings,
the best goalie in the West. He's the best goalie in the
for
West.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. Right now, that's the one you don't want to face because once he gets into that groove, man, we've seen this act before. Kings, Korpisalo, and where's Phoenix? Copley, Oilers with Skinner. They're going to ride him. They think he's the hot stick. The Kraken now with Grubauer, Avalanche with Georgiev. I still have to say the one team you don't want to face now is going to be Dallas moving forward because of Ottinger. And you always, it usually comes down to goaltending.
Exactly. And something I've been saying on this show since basically we started was give me the best coach, give me the best goaltender in a series. And that's who I'm going to pick to advance most of the time. Is Cassidy a better? I think Cassidy's probably a little better coach than DeBoer as far as just the history goes. And, DeBoer, I don't know. He's DeBoering, I guess. And
he's DeBoering.
I don't mean that in a bad way, but DeBoer has a method that he sticks to that seems to be okay, but it just can't get you all the way there. Where Cassidy's had some deep runs and, he had two, talking about Cassidy in closeout games, he had two chances to close out the Stanley Cup a couple seasons ago and failed to do so, I believe, against the Blues, if not mistaken, including a Game 7 home Stanley Cup closeout game
against the Canes. Wasn't that the
last year against the Canes? They were well. So Boston was the dog in that series. I think that was an 8-1 scenario where the Hurricanes were the top record in that, or they were either wild. They were either first or second in the East, and Boston was wild card 1 and wild card 2, and it wound up going 7 games, but the Hurricanes wound up advancing there. Same deal. Give me the best coach, Rod Brindamore, and the goalies. You could probably split hairs as far as who the goalie. I think it was probably Freddie Anderson and Ullmark last season, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, Ullmark gets a nod there, but back to where I was going with this. Give me the best goalie, give me the best coach, and let's go upward from there. DeBoer, let's call him equal just for conversation, so we don't got to split hairs. No reason to. Ottinger is going to be the better of the goalies. So can the VGK defense carry whoever the goalie is going to be? Because right now it's Brossoit, and I think it's going to be for a while, but Logan Thompson hasn't even started skating yet. But if Brossoit has a tough time, they will turn the net to Aiden Hill. And I'm okay with that if that happens, because that's just what the situation is. As far as other teams in the West, when you're going to match the coaches and the goalies, Edmonton, no, I'm not. I won't take any of the Edmonton goalies right now over what's happening. And I always forget the guy's name, but I'll take Cassidy 10 times out of 10 over the coach of Edmonton, besides their power play coach,
All right. Coming up next, when William Carrier returns and he's getting closer, where is he going to fit into this VGK lineup? We'll talk about that when we return right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. We always tell you about our little hack there. Wait outside of T-Mobile Arena, where I was today, or yesterday, I should say, hanging out there. And it was a lot of fun. And they put up a new window wrap there, which looks pretty spiffy.
They want to wait until they're going to make it out of this first series to be safe.
Yeah, there you go. That'll be for naught if they don't get out of the series. But again, you can buy tickets for all of your sports, music, comedy, and theater events near us here in Las Vegas, especially and anywhere that you're tuning in. And they've got killer deals, last minute tickets. It's really good. And they have flash deals, last minute tickets, and easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event that is right here in whatever area you might be in. And they also have those images of the seat views. So I like that about the app. The lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, again, job loss protection, all sorts of things really come with the Gametime app. And the Gametime guarantee, that means that you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. That's right, 110% of the difference. And buy tickets in a matter of just seconds, 2 taps, and you are all set up. So snag your tickets today without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code. It's LOCKEDONNHL, $20 off, and download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Don't forget, coming up on our Friday show, as always, it's WTF, What the Friday. So start sending those in via Twitter or on YouTube. And, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. So, Chris, Bruce Cassidy informing the media yesterday that William Carrier is back on the ice and he's skating again. We found that out somewhat last week. Cassidy said he's going to be checking in with Carrier on Wednesday during the skate. Carrier has been out since March the 3rd, and he's recovering from that lower body injury. And right now, I guess that they're going to try to see if he can skate okay Wednesday and Thursday, and he could become a Gametime decision. But one of the biggest questions that's looming out there is who will Carrier bump out of the lineup? And I'm going to start off. I'm going to say Howden, probably. I just feel Carrier can score more. Remember, he's got 16 goals this season. Is that a career best? Yeah, that's a career best, right? By far, leaps and bounds. Okay, and
I think 9 or 10, if I'm not mistaken, was his.
That's right. Yeah, and he definitely brings a heavier presence to the lineup. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. We know that Cassidy does like to play the hot hand, right? And we know Amadio and Howden are both playing really well, but just in spots and in spurts. They've been great complementary players. But Carey is a guy that you have to get into that lineup because of his consistency every night.
Yeah, so Cassidy, I believe, just Tuesday mentioned when Carrier first was getting back, his body wasn't necessarily responding to the intensity that where it needed to be when he first got back on the ice. So whether Carrier is, a Gametime level decision right now, or they're not going to rush him. Let's be clear. Up 3-1. I think the hope is VGK closes it out on Thursday, and then they don't even play a game until the following Wednesday or Thursday. So that would be the best case scenario, to not even have to worry about forcing Carrier into the lineup over someone. And you don't need to force anyone in the lineup right now. That's the beauty of it. They're scoring. They're playing decent. Some of the players are playing decent defense besides my little Pietrangelo and your Alec Martinez rants on yesterday's show, of course. But where does Carrier slot back in this lineup? And we put a poll out there. Kessel, Amadio, Kolesar, Howden, and you can even put a write-in vote for Barbashev too, could get bumped. I don't think that's going to be the play, just for the defense that Barbashev brings to the lineup. Would be interesting if the two trade deadline acquisitions were two healthy scratches, but that's another topic if that actually happens or not.
Quickly, I just want to ask you, do you sense that something is wrong with Phil Kessel? Didn't you point something out on Twitter?
People mentioned it looked like he was laboring pretty good at the end of Game 4. And listen, Kessel, he's had some chances, but he hasn't done anything with them yet. Power play hasn't done a whole lot either. So you can argue that, there was a good moment in the sun for Phil Kessel on the power play down the stretch in the regular season. It really seemed like he was taking on a leadership role and was, just really elevating his game. And not saying he's not elevating his game right now and doing what he can, but he might be limited with the fact that he's 30 whatever years old and however many games it's been. And it's father time catches up to all of us at some point. Maybe it is a little bit to Kessel right now, or maybe he's a little bumped and dinged and whatever. I don't know if Kessel gets taken out of the lineup unless it's for injury reasons. I mean, it would slot nicely for Will Carrier in that third line, because that's where Carrier did spend most of his time down the stretch before his injury happened. Amadio, everyone loves him because of the overtime goal. You wonder if that's necessarily the right play, if that's the right perspective or not. He only got 7% of the votes to get bumped out. Kolesar and Kessel are basically tied 38 and 35%. We know Cassidy likes Kolesar's game. We know he likes Kolesar's game. Kolesar did score a goal this past Saturday. Of course, that big stare down, which was just a lot of fun. And Brett Howden just had a great game with 2 goals, one an empty netter, but so be it. He's got 2 goals, and VGK has struggled putting pucks into the empty net, so that's noteworthy. Knowing Kessel or knowing Cassidy, it's probably between Amadio and Howden. I think it's actually Amadio going against our public, if you will, that winds up getting bumped in the short term, but it could be a revolving door. If Howden, if Howden's got the hot hand, Amadio gets bumped. If Amadio looks good, Howden gets bumped. And, would Carrier on line 4 simply taking Kolesar's spot be the cleanest? I think that's probably the best option, but I don't think that's what Cassidy does. And I don't think he takes Kessel out unless Kessel's hurt.
And we've seen, as we've seen with Mark Stone, coming back fresh, right? There's an importance to that. Everyone's like, oh, there's a lot
There'll
of
be
rust.
a game and adjustment, and then that's it.
Yeah, and then you're fine. You're off to the races. You've got fresh legs. You haven't had that kind of grinding, and then you're back, and you're probably playing 200%. 3 goals, 3 assists in 56 playoff games for Will Carrier. Logan Thompson has not returned to the ice. That was the other update, and that's kind of sad. And
he's done.
It's a shame.
Yeah,
he's done for the season, but it's really sad because here's a guy that gave VGK a fighting chance earlier this season, was the all-star. He came back for the one game and then just not responding well. And perhaps there's some sort of off-season surgery in the works for him. It just doesn't seem like he's going to get right here on his own.
No, it's unfortunate because you have to think Logan Thompson would have us in a better spot because he's our starter. No one, if you asked anyone, I don't know, a good 15, 18 weeks ago to rank the goalies, give them a score 1 out of 10, your LT is going to get an 8 and you're going to go a 1 for Aiden Hill and a 1 for Brissois or something like that. That's just, how everyone viewed the goaltending situation. And we hope LT gets better. We hope he's good by the softball game, Tony. That's our measuring stick. Let's see if he's out there. Let's see who makes the appearance for the softball game, and then we'll kind of take it from there, I guess.
Okay, why was Jonathan Quick on the road in Winnipeg if Aiden Hill has been the backup here the last couple of games?
Oh, what if Aiden Hill gets hurt in warmups? What if Brissois gets hurt in warmups?
Just another backup there. And don't count out for Winnipeg. On Tuesday, we heard Bonus say that Scheifele didn't count him out for the game. And he said he's feeling much better on Tuesday. So we'll see how he progresses. That extra day, it could be a factor here.
Steve Yzerman played a game with a broken foot once, so why not?
Alec Martinez played the entire playoffs with a broken foot. Remember that. So, yeah, so there.
Jack Eichel with a broken thumb plays the last 15 games of the season. I mean, it's awesome.
I'm not going to try to one-up you anymore, but Nikolai
No, I'm just saying, hockey players are amazing. That's what we're saying to each other right now. Much better than basketball players.
Nikolai Ehlers could also be back. Cassidy said he just pointed to this team's resilience, the way that they've played. He talked about Jack Eichel on Tuesday, and he said that now Eichel has that shot mentality. So has he had to give up some of his defensive effort to play more on the offensive end?
I mean, no one is going to be able to be on both sides of the ice at all times. I mean, Mark Stone is maybe an exception. And then my favorite, 200-foot player of all time, not William Karlsson, Marian Hossa, Blackhawks, Senators, Penguins, Red Wings. Marian Hossa is by far one of my favorite players of all time, just for what he could bring to any team. And Jack Eichel has a little bit of that. He's obviously got a more lethal scoring drive, although Marian Hossa did have some early on in Marian Hossa's career. Me and my dad were having this conversation a while back, but early in Marian Hossa's career, he was scoring a lot of goals, I believe, for the Ottawa Senators. I could be wrong on that one. Thrashers, Senators, either way. He was scoring a lot of goals, but I think his plus minus suffered. And then as his career went on, as he got a little bit older, he started playing better defense and stuff like that. So that's a natural progression for players that want to have long careers. You're not going to do what Ovechkin does every single year. That's a very, very special situation, or what Connor McDavid's going to do for the next 10, 12 years of his career before he finally needs to start slowing it down and only able to score 22 goals a season instead of 60 goals a season.
Instead of saying nice stick on any play that Eichel makes, say long stick. He's got the longest stick out there.
I think Mark Stone
delivering. Are you sure?
Stone has he's got a very active stick, and he also has that handle.
No, I'm not talking about activeness.
I think lengthwise, I think Stone has a real long stick.
Okay.
Nick Hague's probably got the longest because of his size.
Can you measure those? Eichel's like, he's got like one of those long bats in any event.
Traditionally, forwards have, so forwards, if I'm trying to remember the way they, again, this is at the youth level, forwards kind of have the stick coming like right around their chin to like their bottom lip. And defensemen can be anywhere from their neck to their eyes, depending on what their personal preference is. When I was, again, this is my inline hockey days, going way, way back here. When I was actually a pretty good inline skater, I was using a stick that barely came to my chin because I can get down really low. And as I got older and took up a little more space and got a little wider, the stick got a little bit longer so I could have a little more of an active stick. There you go, Tony.
Okay.
Good stick.
And
Good
the
stick.
other thing that Cassidy, one other point he made was the timeliness of goals, of saves, the way that this team has really fought through adversity in the postseason. They've done a pretty good job of just keeping even keel. I think even when they gave up the three, and Marchessault called it poise the other night, but even when they blew the 3-goal lead, they still came back. Even when Winnipeg was pressing in game number 4, VGK was able to kind of keep sway. No, don't keep sway, because that would be Cassidy swaying back. He's not swaying as much. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's a
nervous tick. It's like a stutter when someone gets a little,
He's a
going.
happy camper right now.
No, and back to the poise. I mean, listen, you look at the roster. I don't know what the average age is of VGK versus the rest of the league, but I have to think that VGK is probably in the upper half as far as being on the older side. But that's also what the experience brings. I mean, you look at what the former captains on the team and people that have worn letters and things like that. There's a reason for the players that Kelly McCrimmon, George McPhee, and Bill Foley to a degree have targeted in the off seasons. They want that leadership. They want that locker room. You don't hear, I mean, Robin Leonard, we can, go up and back with some of the things, but outside of that, there's really not too many stories about, if any stories about Vegas Golden Knight players. Max Pacioretty, I think we feel, reading between the lines, he wasn't a cancer, but he just didn't fit in with the business of the Golden Knights is probably the best way we can say that.
The very moment he got here, the reports that I got from the locker room from one of my little moles in there was that he didn't like everyone fooling around and kidding and pranks. There were a ton of pranks in those early days.
Oh yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury, of course.
Fleury, Marchessault. They all tried to remember. Fleury was taping the sticks of Marchessault, and and then you have everyone else that comes in here that's like kind of down the middle, and they're really professional about the way that they take the game. Yeah, I could see things,
Pacioretty prefers to be that person. Like if they're running a business, they want the employees all in their suits and their ties and all that. Where Marc-Andre Fleury, Marchessault, they'd rather maybe be in a polo and a nice looking pair of jeans with a decent pair of dress pants, still getting the job done, and having a good time.
Giving people wet willies too. The wet willies, remember that?
That's got to end the segment. Got to be the segment closer.
Okay. Coming up next, for some reason, I look at the rundown sheet, and lo and behold, it says Skater Boy Avril Lavigne. Chris is going to have to explain himself when we return right here on Locked On Golden Knights.
So we don't record at night.
Welcome back to Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick. We come to you from Las Vegas, and we report on the Vegas Golden Knights 5 days per week. This has just been an unbelievable month, and it's not even over with all of the downloads and all of the folks that are subscribing on the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate everyone's involvement, because without you, this wouldn't be a show. Is it a show? I don't even know what to call it, but in any event.
It's a sideshow. It is a sideshow. Okay, so it's a 3-ring circus, a 2-ring circus some days. Avril Lavigne. No, it's about we got a few really good people on Twitter that make it about a 14-way circus.
Oh yeah,
14-ring circus.
Terrific. All right. So Avril Lavigne.
So what Tony's setting me up for is I've been giving him crap all day because he did the TMZ thing, and apparently he's an Avril Lavigne expert. So I was joking. The way we talk about our segments, we send each other text messages trying to figure it out. So I think the last text I sent him was reminisce about the closeout games, which we did. And then the second topic was obviously about Will Carrier, which we did, and we kind of bounced around too. And then I just sent Skater Boy for the heck of it, just to give him crap. So apparently that's our Avril Lavigne's our third segment. It's not our third segment, folks. No. So I put a tweet out there just kind of asking, hey, what do you guys want us to talk about, because this is kind of a weird Wednesday show. There's no game tonight, and there's some other playoff action. It looks like the Kings are the Kings aren't looking too good. They're down 5-2 to the Oilers. So that's going to go 3-2 going back to LA. So just some of the stuff going through the Twitter poll, or not the poll, but the questions here. TW Simpson mentions Robin Lehner and basically what might happen with him next year, alludes to his situation off the ice, and if that will help VGK possibly eliminate his employment, if you will. VGK does have a buyout. If you go on Cap Friendly, you can check that amount. I didn't see it. It's like 175 or 275. I'm pretty sure buyouts will count against the cap if they do that. VGK is not a spot to take on dead cap space. Let's be clear about that. And what's happened off the ice, I mean, Leonard's not a criminal or anything like that. If he gets convicted or whatever of fraud, he'll get worked out. It's not going to mean he can't be a hockey player ever again or anything like that. We'll see if he's healthy enough. That's going to determine if he will be a VGK. Brandon Frame, if LA regrets trading Jonathan 2 Cups Quick now, that's actually a pretty money comment, because all of a sudden LA's goaltending isn't looking good, but it hasn't looked good all season. That's the thing.
Yeah, but Copley's better, man.
Copley had a good record, sure. And how does he not get a chance after the last couple of games, especially after the goal that Edmonton got in overtime? So I think that's a good thing. Brandon says how poopy the Situation Room is in screwing up reviews, and then mentions something about Jonathan Quick. Quick is our third goalie right now, and if we need him, we need him. And then, we're not even going to reference that one. That was dumb what someone said.
Will there be a point this season in the postseason where VGK has to go to another goaltender? There's no back-to-backs, obviously, but there's going to be a certain point where
there'll be a spot. I mean, listen, if Brossoit can play as great as he's been, or at least as serviceable, then that's wonderful, right? That's great. Hopefully we don't have to go to another goaltender, but no goalie is going to be solid the entire postseason. I think there's a chance that we see Aiden Hill in there at some point. If Jonathan Quick gets in there, that means there's another injury and something bad happened. But listen, who knows? Crazier things have happened. Maybe Jonathan Quick if VGK gets to the Stanley Cup final, maybe he'll get a start. You never know. We didn't think Jonathan Quick was going to be a Vegas Golden Knight, for crying out loud.
That's for sure.
Last comment here, the 3-1 jinx. Let me explain. Tony has no doubt, and I haven't even read this yet, so I'm going to go slow, make sure I don't miss something here. Tony has no doubt seen a zillion times in pro sports, college teams, enormous leads, scores, playoff games vanishing. Run on sentence, bro. NBA teams losing huge leads. Who says a return to Vegas is a VGK guarantee win closeouts?
Right. 7-8.
Must play with no regrets.
7-8.
We covered that pretty good in the first segment.
That's pretty good timing there. Yeah.
No, that is really good. That definitely is a good.
The team pressing a little bit too much in front of the home crowd,
which is fair. And also, listen, VGK has a poor record of multiple days off being in Vegas before they play. We've talked about this. This is almost the equivalent of
the honeydew chores.
How long have they been on the road? They've been on the road, Tony, since they traveled probably last Friday morning, right? And then did Saturday and Monday. So
and then
they've been on the road. They just got back to town this afternoon sometime, because obviously Cass needed the presser. Yeah. So, it's you got some catching up to do at home right now, and we'll see if VGK is ready. But and we'll just talk a little bit here. Winnipeg is going to give everything they have in the first period of this game. And again, kind of like on the road, if VGK can weather that first 5, 10, 12 minutes of the game, or get out of that first period even tied, Winnipeg's their fatigue is really going to set in because of the injuries, because of how hard they're going to be pushing, and the poise. If VGK can keep their poise, it's that minus 185 that the sports books are hanging for Vegas on Thursday already is free money.
Okay.
If they can keep their poise.
So for the record, that's old news with Avril Lavigne. It was more this week about Jeff Bezos and Kris Jenner with their +1s showing up at Coachella. And Jeff Bezos was wearing a $12 Amazon shirt, the billionaire. And I was just like, of course, when I did my little shtick there, I'm just wondering about Lawrence Sanchez, the +1, and Corey Gamble, the other +1. And I'm concerned about what their conversation was going to be like when Jeff Bezos and Kris Jenner are there talking business and buyouts and takeovers.
Drool off my thing here. Okay.
Are you back?
Are you?
Yeah. We thank, of course, everyone.
I guess that's
for
why you
tuning
get.
in.
I guess that's why you get those gigs, Tony. I guess that's why you get those gigs. That's tough. That was tough, but you did a good job with it.
Okay.
Take it till you make it, bro.
The $12 Amazon shirt. Okay.
Is that more expensive? Is that over under the cost of your Dasco shirt you're wearing right there?
Oh, it's much over. Yeah, it's more than 12.
Your shirt's more than 12?
Yeah. Plus the logos, like these are like $40 shirts. Come on, man. Yeah. We should start selling these on Amazon. They would go really fast. We'd like to thank the everydayers, the folks that tune in each and every day. And tomorrow on the show, we will preview coming up. We will preview perhaps could be a closeout game for the VGK. We'll talk about adjustments that each team has to make coming into that game. And then again, you could find us on YouTube, Locked On Golden Knights. We appreciate you tuning in. Thanks to my man, Chris Golick. Thanks to me for bringing up TMZ. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Golden Knights.